Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Greetings from the rainy Pacific Northwest.
Good morning. I don't mind the rain though.
Keeps everything green.
Hmm. I don't have to water the garden.
Good afternoon.
Hey, hey.
We're a little slow this morning. Kind of a late evening last night, so
Yeah, he just woke me up out of bed.
Well, I can tell you idle updates how I spent my day yesterday and the other day. I went to a science meeting in Second Life and we visited Etopia, which is the environment combined with utopia, Etopia. And the entire four region is been dedicated for this person for the last 10 years. They're a real scientist. They have wind electric generators and water purifying systems, and everything's modeled. It's kind of cool. And it's also a community with neighborhoods and homes as well as these plants and things. So we had a tour there. There are about 30 of us, and they jabbered away for about an hour. All the scientists are very enthusiastic and talk about all these chemistry and biology and some physics. I just kind of looked around and enjoyed it. They have sailboats you can ride in and tour around the island, and you can climb up inside the wind generators. And annoyingly, they had flying turned off, so I had to walk everywhere and, leap into the abyss to get off of the top of the tower. But it was okay. I picked myself up. I landed in the ocean, but I just, walked up the side of the ocean bed as one does. It's fun. And the week
sounds pretty
before
interesting.
that, it is. And the person that owns it said that they hadn't gone anywhere else in Second Life for 10 years. They just lived there and had their friends and colleagues come, and that was their home base, online. I thought that was particularly interesting. And the week ago on the science tour, we visited Genome Island. And it's not just the human genome, it's all kinds of genomes. And it was built by another person, a scientist with degrees and teachers. And they had things like crossbreeding two kinds of bees or two kinds of cats. And you could actually click on them and see what happened, like with a calico cat and I didn't pay too much attention. I would have failed the quiz, but you could actually run through several generations of cats or bees and then they had one you guys have heard about in England, uh, when the industrial age started creating all this soot and all the trees got dark and the light colored moths were eaten by the birds because the birds could see them against the dark bark. So the moths actually changed color and began to get dark and could survive. So they actually
That's
had a simulation of
interesting.
that. And you could
How
change the
quickly
color
did
of the
they?
bark.
How quickly did they change um, color?
Oh, in real life? Oh, I have to look
Yeah.
that up. In 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 the Second Life, they actually had birds flying around and moths on the tree and then you could change the color and then just watch it. After about 5 minutes, the the light moths started to disappear and the dark moths started to dominate. Anyway, that was kind of fun. The dark and light forms of the peppered moth are used to study industrial mechanisms. It's called a pepper moth. And Here, I'll paste the link and you can look at it. Maybe
Thank
it'll tell
you.
me what you. Prior to 1848, it was only white. By 1898, so that was 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fast. There's the link. Assault moth. Very good. No, they got put in prison for assault, Brasana. Yuck, 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 yuck. Okay, now that you're all awake, I'm going back on silent mode and drinking coffee and looking forward to further discussion.
So yeah, what's on your list? I guess we'll get started.
Yeah, so it's just kind of over things here. Uh, as usual, to start off the morning or afternoon, evening, wherever you are, we like to start out with a bit of news, and we we both kind of came across this interesting article that says spies can eavesdrop by watching a light bulb's variation. Thought that was pretty
Yeah.
interesting, especially considering some of the chat we had last week about spooks and whatnot. Uh, Here's a link.
I mean, there's already this crazy stuff spies do to keep other spies from dropping in, but now you have to. Well, don't they close the windows anyways for lip readers and all that kind of stuff? So I guess it's not a big thing to a spy.
Yeah. So they call this thing a lamp phone. It allows anyone with a laptop and less than $1,000 of equipment, just a telescope and a $400 electro-optical sensor, to listen in on any sounds in a room that's hundreds of feet away in real time, simply by observing the minuscule vibrations those sounds create on the glass surfaces of a light bulb inside. I wonder if that works for LED lights though, because not all LEDs have glass bulbs anymore.
Oh wow.
Huh. So yeah, it's pretty interesting that they don't have to hack any device or place bugs or anything like that. They can just point their telescope at the light bulb and listen to what you're saying.
Didn't they have like a Beatles song and they basically it was enough it was clear enough that whatever device they had like Google or Alexa or whatever could identify it too. I thought that was interesting that it's that clear.
But,
The only thing I worry about is like stalker people type people, like getting all this equipment. But you can already go. They have the spy stores already. You can get all this stuff.
yeah, so I guess the moral of the story here is if you're gonna talk top secret stuff, talk with the lights off.
I pasted a couple more things in there for you guys, just to fuel our paranoia. Van Eck freaking.
Nice.
Wow.
So, just a connection to science fiction. There's an author named Neil Stephenson. You may be familiar with, or he's maybe older generation. But he has a book called Cryptonomicon, and it's a real neat storyline. It bounces back and forth between contemporary and World War II era, and it has a lot of code breaking and tactical deception operatives, and of course they're chasing the gold. They're chasing World War II
I think I've
gold.
heard of that Cryptonomicon.
Yeah, yeah,
When did
it's
that come
really. There's a link for you. Well, when did it come out? 1999.
out? Okay. Oh, Neil Stevenson.
Yeah. He has characters like Alan Turing in there. Um, He's the one who wrote Snow Crash.
which is what Second Life was inspired by, right?
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to
yeah.
read that.
His work is long and for me, like totally engaging. I mean, there's another one called Anathem, which is a play off of uh, anathema. Anathema is when you get um, banned from the church for speaking heresy. Anathema, anathema. But anathem sounds like anthem, and the whole book Anathem is. I mean, it'll take you in a whole different mental world, and it's cool. Anyway, you triggered my thought by bringing up the light bulb. Good job. And there's some science fiction for you guys.
Nice.
You know, it's funny how that works because you said you were an INTJ, right? And I always describe to people, well, when I was first dating Carson, I had to warn him sometimes that I would come up with this random stuff because I have to translate my thoughts. So usually, whatever thought that I'm speaking about, my head is already like 2 to 3 related thoughts ahead. And so sometimes by the time I'm trying to explain what I'm talking about, I've already forgotten how everything connected. And it's so complex sometimes that I have to slow down. And that's why sometimes when I'm talking, you'll hear long pauses. Um, Apparently he has similar things. I wonder if that's an INXX kind of a thing. INTJ, INFJ, INSJ, or whatever. There J's, INs there are.
Yeah, that frequently happens with me too.
So what are you, Carson, again? You're FJ?
Yeah, INFJ.
Gotcha.
Do you Chevron Chev 7? Do you know what you are? And Bree? ISFJ. That's interesting. I'll have to read about that. Do you know what it is that what habits make you an ISFJ? I don't think I've ever met one knowingly.
I think, did I post that in the, yeah, I think I posted that in the newsletter. That was what we were going to have for the sharing topic.
Oh, okay.
Totally forgot.
Yeah, I took that test, I guess, in my 20s. Um, this is back when I rejected horoscopes and all that stuff. I used to think that was really cool. And I wondered if there's anything out there that was more accurate. And so I found this. I just started looking at stuff. But INTJ, I read that. I'm like, oh man, that's me. They're in my head. The first time I ever felt like someone could help explain myself to me. And I was always collecting information. I'm like a walking encyclopedia.
Nice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so Bree, I first heard of it because we did a team building when I worked in the corporation. And the way it was explained to us, the first letter is I for introvert, E for extrovert. So, and the woman that taught us said, well, everybody who's got an extrovert, raise their hand. And so, half the room raised their hand. And then she said, everybody who got introvert, raise your hand. None of us raised our hand. So she said, that's the first clue. Extroverts, if you want to know what's on their mind, just listen. They're always blah, 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 blah. And introverts tend to keep quiet. So So that was kind of the first idea. Also, extroverts, if they get tired, they go to a party. And introverts, if they get tired, they go read or do something quiet by themselves.
Right, so that we
So,
could charge our batteries in order to go to the party.
yeah. Then the second letter is intuitive or sensing, N or S. So theoretically, if Artemis or I were solving, trying to figure out something, I would read the signs. For example, when I would used to go to bookstores, I would look at magazine racks and just grab one because it had good pictures in it, and it gave me an idea, and I would use it for some kind of, collage. Uh, but I didn't plan. I just I'm looking for signals. I'm picking up signals, and sensing is like, since I'm not, I have to make up what I think this means, but it's like reading the newspaper cover to cover every day, getting your facts from authoritative sources. And then the third one is feeling, judging, and judging is like, well, let's weigh the pros and cons and add them up, and then we'll make a decision based on logical math. There you go, Artemis. And feeling is feeling. What feels the right way to do it, and then let's do it that way. And
Yeah,
then
and I think
finally,
it kind of morphs as you get older a little bit.
yeah, 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 I've read that too. And then the last one, you guys know what that is, Artemis?
Oh, the judging.
Yeah, judging versus perceiving, I think it is.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what it says about judging.
Well, judging says now that I've processed the data, whether feelingly or logically, let's do something about it. Okay, effective immediately, we will stop watching the 5 o'clock news because we read a report that says their anchorman is a prevert. I don't know. Perceiving would say, how interesting. The next time I watch the 5 o'clock news, I'm going to, see if I notice anything. You just hang out with it. Both of them have figured all the stuff out, but judging tends to want to act on it and make a command decision, and perceiving just sort of chills and goes with the flow and, oh, awesome. So,
I think where that comes into play for me is when I have close friends and they're asking for advice. So any friend that asks for advice, if they eventually ask the same question over and over and over and never seem to move on, even though I've given advice, in my opinion. So if someone asks for it and doesn't eventually do something about their problem, that can be a little irritating.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. That's definitely the.
Yeah.
I'll often interrupt people in the middle of telling me about stuff. And it's like, well, what do you want to do about it? Let's take action. Let's do it.
You and I also have this thing where if we are both trying to share something in our head and we get interrupted by the other one, like if I interrupt you, you interrupt me, or anyone, it's just the example, but I notice it more between us, um, then we tend to lose our place in our head.
Yeah, can't derail that. Yeah, derail that train of thought.
I wonder if this is a genetic thing because my dad is an INFJ. My mom is an she's never taken the test, but I know she's an IN something. And then I always thought it was weird because I've never had this experience where you'll have introvert parents with an extrovert child, or vice versa. Anyways, I love this kind of stuff, the Myers-Briggs. I also love the other one that I'm trying to get you into, which you have not taken this test yet, I don't think, because I don't remember what you are. But the Enneagram. I know that I'm a 5 wing 7, I think, and it basically says the same thing that INTJs. So for me, that was another way to uh, kind of hone in on I don't know why I do a lot of self analyzing. I do. I don't know. I find it interesting.
It's always
I
good.
find it as a way to help me relate to other people, to be quite honest. I figure like I'm always using technical tools to figure out how to interact correctly with others because they seem alien to me in many ways. And
Yeah. You know
and
what really
and
helped
so,
me was having a child. Just the alienness thing. I was really awkward around people before. I'd say up until my 20s, mid 20s. I mean, I still am really awkward with people. It's not like an anxiety, uh, I don't know, a panic attack. It is an anxiety, but it's not like a panic attack where I can't function. I just get really stressed around lots of people because I end up turning into a wallflower, uh, even if there's something that I want to do. Like I tried hosting the first one of these. I hosted the first one. No, well, we both hosted it, but I took the initiative, right? So that was really anxious for me. But having a child made me more user friendly because there's something else that's depending on me to help them out in the world, and having to try to relate to your own anticipate their needs and things. But I think that made me a kinder, gentler, friendlier INTJ.
Yeah. Well-adjusted INTJs in the room. That's what I call it, anyways. Yeah. Greetings, Inquisitive Loon. I didn't know you were still here. It said that you left.
What's the blue circle?
I just pasted the link in there for Bree if you're interested. That Karsten posted last week on if you're curious about your personality type.
So I predict you're an I something, introvert something. Um, maybe ending in J.
Well, given that she would not let go of uploading her table, I think somewhere in there there's persistent, although I don't think that's what P stands for, but stubborn. But no, that S, that's supposed to be sensing. Might be an S in there. We'll
Hmm,
find out. She's taking the test.
Cool.
that's awesome. If I could make everyone I know in my life take that test, I feel like I could function a little easier.
Yeah. So in other news, I like to follow a lot of tech news, like what's the latest hardware coming out for personal computers and things like that. And I think this actually came from Siri though. Sent me a link here for an article that says chip made with carbon nanotubes, not silicon, marks a computing milestone. And that's pretty cool because they've been starting to hit a wall with shrinking their process nodes for manufacturing silicon chips. So if they can figure out how to build chips out of these carbon nanotubes, that'll definitely help us continue along our what's that what's that term for where you double the processor speed every whatever it is. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, Moore's law. Thank you. Uh, so we've kind of been leveling off a bit lately, it seems. So looking forward to see where that goes. Apparently, the processor that they've made uh, out of these carbon nanotubes, this prototype or whatever, Still can't really compete with current silicon, but it's looking really promising. That's a good bit of tech news there.
So is this gonna possibly be better for the idea of quantum computers, maybe?
I don't know. That's another interesting concept too. The whole, quantum computers aren't really going to do what our regular conventional computers do, from what I understand. But in the future, someday in the distant future, we might have computers that have like a quantum coprocessor or something like that, where you have a regular conventional computer that does a lot of the regular day-to-day stuff, and then it can offload tasks to the quantum coprocessor that it's more suited for. I don't know how they're going to build the quantum processors yet. They're still figuring that out as well. Although I think they're getting closer to figuring out how to do quantum entanglement without sub-zero temperatures and things like that. So
Yeah, I was also hoping that this would be like all of this new technology would be less and less energy using, and it just everything gets smaller and thinner. I'm waiting for the transparent monitor and all that stuff. Don't they already have? Didn't we talk about this? They already have a technology to do transparent metals.
yeah, there was something not too long ago about transparent aluminum, kind of like from the old Star Trek. Uh, they
I have
apparently
it on
had
my
figured
wallpaper
out.
TV too.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, the transparent aluminum. Apparently, they did figure it out, and they're just trying to get the process down for like mass manufacture. So right now, it's kind of a expensive one-off type thing, but
What would they use
they're
that for? Transparent metal. Oh, for like a stronger uh automobile glass or something.
right, right. It's so a better like a bulletproof glass and stuff. I think their primary use initially is going to be armored vehicles and things like that. And then eventually it'll trickle down into the consumer market for like cell phone screens and stuff like that. So if you drop your phone, you're going to dent your screen instead of crack it. But either way, I don't have a case on my phone because I'm a monster.
You are a monster. Who does that? He also doesn't have uh why did he go? Oh, he also doesn't eat dressing on his salads. I find that really
I've pasted a link. Um, Saving Hassenfelter is a woman, and I started seeing her articles in my newsletter, and then I checked out a video, and she's fascinating. She's a scientist, and she does fascinating videos explaining science concepts. And by the way, she also does music videos, original music videos, sometimes on physics themes. But all right, Brasana is an ISFJT.
Oh, that's really interesting. I'll have to read up on you guys.
Well, it probably means she's kind of 50-50, kind of like you were saying, you can evolve or migrate or whatever. So anyway, Sabine explains about qubits, and apparently we are currently at the technological level of 2 to 3 qubits, quantum bits, actual computing capacity. And that article is about how Google is going to claim they've beat out whoever else it is, IBM or somebody. And she makes some good points in there. I found it a really helpful backgrounder. So when you have a chance, you might enjoy that.
Yeah, thanks. I love afterwards when we go through the chat log. He always types up some kind of a blog post with the highlights that we've talked about. Always a lot of articles. Hey, Suri.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested on keeping localhostconnection.com. That's where I'm posting the blog posts, and if you sign up for the newsletter, I'll just send you an email reminder when it's posted.
What do you think Siri is? Siri is a connector type person. So maybe extrovert? E. He takes action. E something J. EXXJ. Hi, Dixie. Tactics.
For anyone
Oh.
just joining, we also have the live stream going on YouTube.
Oh, I live stream.
Yeah, the Myers-Briggs. We were just saying how I'm an INTJ, Carson's an INFJ, Chevron is an ISFJ, ISFJ, Sidearms an INTJ, Persona is an ISFJ. Did I get that right? ISFJ. Huh.
All right. So while you're all checking that out, I'll go over the last news article that we had for today, and that was that an ancient Roman city has been fully mapped using the ground-penetrating radar.
Oh, yes, I thought this was so cool. The only thing that they won't get out of this is all the really cool little artifacts that get uncovered, you know, when you start doing the digs. But it's really cool that they can tell where the entire city and all the buildings are.
So that's pretty cool.
It seems like this kind of technology is a lot cheaper now because you hear about it being used in so many other places, whereas before not so much.
Yeah. It's pretty cool what you can do with this stuff now. Even just with a consumer drone and stuff like that, you can map terrain and environments by flying a pattern overhead.
This one was pushed, right? But they do have the drone ones too, right? Or can they not get that detail from a drone? Does it have to be on the ground?
Yeah, this I think was probably used.
I'll just read it later.
Yeah, this is the one that I didn't quite get a chance to read all the way through this one. But they do talk about LiDAR in there too, which is another interesting mapping technology I use business, doing site plans and things like that. It's a good way to get topo data and things.
There's a really good, cool book. If I got the right one here. It's called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And it's actually about the evolution of human society. And one of the cool things it shows is how strongly geography has influenced what parts of humanity could progress very quickly and what parts could not. A simple example is we've heard of the Fertile Crescent, you know, the Babylon and that whole area. So we, as best is known, we migrated up from Africa as Homo sapiens, but then we spread out west to east. And because west to east, there were no major mountains in the way, and there was the water and the coastline. And so and then you could start discovering how to grow stuff and domesticate animals and so on and so on and so on. But it took a long time to get across the Alps and into traditional Europe, and so they developed much later. And then the Americas were not only were they separated by the land bridge up where Alaska and Russia are, but it was very hard to spread. There was nothing useful east-west. You could only go north-south. And anyway, it's just a fascinating book. And you reminded me of that. And he talks about water empires and that have come and gone. And they have done studies like you're talking about the deep radar. And then when the water dried up, boom, that whole empire disappeared.
This sounds like a really
So
cool book. I'm definitely gonna check it out. Looking at it right now in the criticisms, where they describe it as academic porn. I'm like, really? Oh, well, that means it'll be really good.
Yeah, so it looks like this mapping of the ancient temple and stuff was done. So it's the ground penetrating radar. They towed it behind an ground base.
I don't think I was all that surprised that Suri is an ENTJ. I feel like he's a high functioning version of myself, and every time he goes around connecting people, I'm like, yes. Because he's really easy to talk to. I always have, I like how his mind works. There's always something interesting to listen to, or some connection that he's made, or observance. But then he gets out and talks. He actually talks to people.
yeah.
Well, I'm surprised, Sidem, that you're INTJ. Are you like borderline extrovert or?
I'll tell you what happened. Her name was Betty Tiago. She was the facilitator for our group that gave out these tests. And when she was explaining the difference between extrovert and introvert, she basically said that if you're going to get along in life, you need to be able to go extrovert on demand. And she said you can't get what you want in life without asking for it, and you can't ask for stuff if you're fully introverted. Anyway, that's how I remember it. So
There's quite a bit of truth to that because in my younger years, I was quite a bit extroverted. I would ask for help, ask for money, ask for whatever I needed to ask for to accomplish my goals. Now that I've accomplished a lot of the goals and got a lot of those debts paid back off, I can afford to be introverted. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that feeling a little better.
That's awesome.
I never really was comfortable putting myself out there. I'm not a great salesman. I'm a terrible salesman. But I
Yeah.
would do it because I had to, you know. So, and for the sake of my business and even getting a job, you've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to sit there and go, I am good at this, and this. Sometimes you got to be able to also humble yourself and say, okay, I'm really bad at this. you know, and I never was good at any of those things. But now that I'm older, I'm back to me being me and comfortable with me and all that, and I can afford to be introverted in my real life.
Yeah.
Online, I'm a terrible extrovert. I'll type anything. I'll type anything. And it's usually truthful, and it's usually honest, and it's usually all of those things that you look for in a personality of someone. But I am not
I've
hardly at all.
I've made some odd observations about what I used to think was extra um, introversion versus extroversion. One example where I might say that I don't do well with people, lots of people, and yet I can lecture just fine because it's not a two-way, one-way communication. So when I was in education working in the museum, yeah, my office was in the bowels of the museum, and I anyone except for when I was doing educational stuff. I would do these lecture series and I would do these interpretive hikes as well. But I could really easily, because it's using all the knowledge that I have and I'm sharing this in a one-way direction, that it was really easy to lecture to people. So,
Yeah, I definitely found that too. I think I mentioned with the mini case study thing that I can pretend to be social. I can pretend to be an extrovert sometimes. But that probably also stems from me teaching classes and running a business and having to meet with clients regularly. Stuff like
wait,
that.
you did teach classes. I forgot about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yep, it's definitely interesting combinations of personalities.
I'm also going to predict that Dixie is S.
And what does the S stand for again? S is sensitivity,
Sensing,
sensing.
data driven. For example, last week, hello widget. Last week she mentioned, or somewhere she mentioned that she channel surfs all events at all times, popping in and popping out to see how they're going. To me, that's kind of like data collection versus, just checking once in a while and seeing what the temperature of the room is would be an intuitive way I might do it.
So there's a lot of I something, introvert something that I meet in virtual worlds. Do you think that our type of personality types do better in virtual spaces rather than face-to-face situations? Because I'm supposed to be one of the more rare, uh, a female INTJ is one of the most rare for females, and then the most rare male type is your type, Karsten, right?
Yeah, it's like
How in the world did we meet? I
1% or
never would
something
have
like that.
met one of you in real life outside of a virtual world.
Yeah, because I don't do anything in real life. Not socially, anyways. Well, I go to coffee on Saturdays. Well, I used to before.
Well, even when I go out to my meetup groups that meet in person, I'm still sitting there observing. I just love people watching. I don't, I could go to something for years and not connect with anyone because I don't want to bring them into my world. I just sit there and I observe, and sometimes I throw something out there if they're discussing. But I definitely have people outside of my box. I compartmentalize people. Oh, we were talking about the Myers-Briggs personality tests and what everyone thought they were, or what we thought they were, or what we are. I think further up the chat. Is the chat working? Can you scroll? Where did it go? Are you gonna post that again?
Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Is that me? Can you hear me? This is Widget.
Hey, Widget, I can hear you.
Good. And I can hear you. This is an improvement over past weeks.
Mhm.
I've had the Myers-Briggs administered to me twice in work situations. I tested down the middle both times, several years apart. And I also took a very interesting course where they explained what those behaviors, those various scales were, and what it meant to live on the extreme of any of the four of them. So I thought I got a pretty good dose of it. And it changed my perceptions of some people, not because I type them as being an INTJ or whatever, but because I can think, oh, that person takes a rather long time gathering data before they will come to a conclusion. Or that person will come to a conclusion very quickly, and I can't really tell that they've got enough data. And of course, one of the things I've noticed among some of my smarter friends is that because they are so used to being right, when they are wrong, it's really hard to move them because, because they're so convinced of their track record. That's my Myers-Briggs experience. I think it's fun though.
Hey, futurist.
Some interesting talk around personality types there. It definitely helps to be able to interact with people, knowing how to interact with them, what best gets through to them and stuff. So it is an interesting tool. So just real quick, I'll go over the state of the viewer address. Okay. So the state of the viewer, current staging viewer is 2B49. So far, I've noticed several bug fixes in it, so that's a nice improvement. I haven't been able to get the blue skin bug to. That's I don't know how what is anyone else here running 2B49?
I'm back, and I'm currently running 2B49 right now.
Cool.
I don't know what I'm running. Let me see.
I think you said you put 2B49 on my computer, and I noticed it when I first logged in. But it did eventually load. I'm not having those issues where I don't load for an hour, where it just never loads.
Where do I find that information?
So there's the staging viewer can be grabbed from staging.sign.space download. If you do the manual install, that is the way to get it because the installer will only give you release and preview.
Yeah, and never do the installer anyway, because it will sometimes overwrite your current install, and you might decide, ooh, I don't like that one, I want to go back. Then you got both.
Hmm.
Paste a direct link here. That's the manual download for Windows. It's the download link for Mac. The manual install. But yeah, so far 2B49 has been pretty good. It seems like it's working better with animations and stuff too, like syncing people up.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember if there's other changes I've noticed in it.
Well, we haven't gone to any events yet.
I went to a couple events with it, and so far went to Ziggy's last Friday or something like that, and then everybody was dancing. I was like, wow, this is cool. I can actually see everyone dancing.
Oh,
I've been using it probably, I think this is day 4 or 5, so not bad. Yeah.
I haven't noticed any new bugs. But like 48 had a new bug, and looks like they fixed that with 49 pretty.
Mm, I've seen just reiterations of old books.
Yeah. So if you guys are adventurous, check it out. Otherwise, we've got some trivia. And to start things out, I'm going to do 10 trivias this time, 10 trivia questions. So to start things out, we've got 1980s video games. What Atari video game undersold so badly that millions of cartridges were crushed and buried in New Mexico?
Oh, I've heard about this. Um, oh man, it's slipping my mind. Oh, yeah, was that it?
Yep, yep, sir, he's got it. It was E.T.
What made it so bad?
I didn't hear. What is it?
E.T., the extraterrestrial.
Uh-huh. Oh, I should be looking at chat too. Okay.
I think that was a original Nintendo, right? I think that was what it was.
Yeah, and now they're worth like a load of money now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think people were digging them up too, not too long ago, trying to find one that actually worked.
Yeah.
Could be a collector item now.
I would watch that on YouTube if they did a gameplay.
Uh, okay, so the next one up is Lord of the Rings. How many members are there in the Fellowship of the Ring?
17.
Wow, Chevron 7's got
Oh
it.
man, you guys are quick.
There's 9.
Sitting here counting on my fingers, and
I
they're
know.
already.
Let's type this in here.
I feel like a bad fan.
Okay, so for the original series Star Trek, the Enterprise's shuttle is named after what astronomer?
Yeah.
Galileo.
Yep,
Oh my God,
futurist got
futurist.
it. Okay, so Captain Marvel. The current Captain Marvel is not the first woman to hold the title. Who was? I wouldn't know this one personally.
I don't know because I was very Wolverine-centric. Wolverine and X-Men centric. I didn't even know Captain Marvel was a woman until I saw the trailer for the new one.
Nobody knew Captain Marvel was a woman until they came out with that. Everybody was surprised. Surprise!
Carol Danvers is the new one, right? Well, throw it out there.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give us the
All
answer
right.
because we don't know what it is.
So yeah, it's apparently it's Monica Rambeau.
I've never even heard of that name.
All right. So a Whedon verse. So anything done by Joss Whedon. Who says this quote? Cordelia, your mouth is open. Sound is coming from it. This is never good.
Dealer open. Hmm.
Not from Firefly. Haha, Buffy. Yes, Futrix has got it. It's Buffy Summers. Ship on 7. So now we got some classic board games. In chess, what is the only piece that can jump over other pieces? Easy one. Yeah, knight. Alright, so in Game of Thrones, in what year did the show premiere? Yep, I need to make a chess game. That's close. Yep.
And that was just a matter of like, well, 2013 wasn't it? 2012 wasn't it?
So this card game, changing rules made up by Kirk.
Calvin Ball is in Star Trek? I'll have to look to see what episode. Interesting.
The card game has constantly changing rules.
Ah, okay. I wonder how hard that would be to code, just as an attempt, you know.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I don't remember this at all. Yeah, he's pretty good at that though. What is it he's saying about Captain Marvel? What is the hissy fit over? Because you didn't know the information?
Okay, go ahead.
Sounds like he's a little far away to hear for us to hear him.
Yeah, he's cutting out for me too.
Okay, you're cutting out. Don't worry about it. All right.
Fizbin was Kirk's made up card game. Okay, so this one might be a little easier. In Star Wars: A New Hope, what gangster appears in the rough cut of the film but wasn't restored until the special edition in 1997?
Java.
Jabba the Hutt. Yep. Okay, so this one goes back a little bit. In the 1950s sci-fi movies, which adaptation of H.G. Wells' novel replaced alien tripods with flying saucers? Yeah, War of the Worlds.
Which, by the way, I would like to see again. Do you own that movie?
Yeah, I have the old one and the new one. Yeah.
And there's also a region here that has one of those things making all its weird noises above the street. And that is kind of a creepy region to walk into. You're like carrying around buildings and you see this thing down the street. It's, even though I know it's not real, I don't want to walk right up to it.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the final trivia question, unless anybody has some other trivia. In physics, see the
And a
basic
quick update, just a minute. I went and put 49 on, and so far okay. The first thing I noticed, it changed all of my graphics options, completely changed it to totally high quality, which is not where I had it, and low resolution. So I don't know which one of those has more of an impact on avoiding, burning a hole in the kitchen table, either high resolution or high detail. But it set my resolution to low automatically and my detail to high.
Kind of
That's
an
it.
odd.
So, okay, so trivia. So, physics. Who conceived the basic theory of gravity when he was graced by the falling of an apple? Yeah, that was. So, I'm glad Dixie's here, because this has to do with events. Um, so we're thinking of doing our first book club, which I'll probably be hosting that as well. Um, doing sci-fi fantasy books. And the first book that we're looking to do is called We Are Legion. We Are Bob, which is a pretty interesting sci-fi book about a guy that I think he sets up an insurance plan or something to save his brain makeup or something, so that when he dies, he gets inserted into a machine or something to continue living.
Yeah, there's
And
a new procedure where they can cut off your. You just need your head. So he's got it written where if something happens to him, they'll cut off his head, and they're going to be able to. With it's a lot like that one show we were watching actually.
yeah, it's kind of
Upload.
like Upload. So what's interesting? So okay, so he signs up for this thing and he's just made it in life, and he's walking across the street and gets hit by a car, and then he wakes up about a century later and finds that he has no body, but he's conscious. So, anyways, it's an interesting book. I've read into it a little bit so far, but I'm excited to read the rest of it. And if anybody else is interested in joining us, reading a book together and discussing it, we're looking to do book club that meets once a month, so one book a month. And we're trying to figure out what day and time would be best to go about.
Yeah, well, definitely I'll do it because I just want to read one book a month. Like 12 books a year. That's all I want to do, and I never can seem to make even that. So anything to get me reading.
Oh, it's talking about her. She poofed. Oh, interesting. I don't know if anybody's interested in doing a book a month. If you are, can hit me up. Or just chat about it in here about a good day and time that would work. Let's see. Something to share. Oh, Siri's got some more trivia. Who said the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it?
That does sound like something Mae West would say. That sounds like something an INTJ would say. Bye, Futures. Thanks for coming out. Maybe we should do a trivia event. Maybe we should do a trivia event. See you, Chevron. Thanks for coming out.
So we can ask if anyone's got a favorite obscure artist, song, or movie that not many people know about.
A favorite song, movie, or artist that people don't that you like that people don't know about?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, try to surprise us with something we've never heard of.
Something that would surprise people.
Yeah.
Well, I have an artist I don't listen to all the time, but I pretty much can hum every single song they've ever done. I don't think people would think of me being the type of person to listen to this group. So I would say that 70s band ABBA, I can hum every single song of theirs. If I hear it on the radio, I can finish it. have an Avis superpower.
I have a music composition I just finished that's on YouTube. It's 6 minutes if you want to hear it. It's weird. And
That's
it
all
has
you need to
interesting
say.
visual patterns. I didn't hear what you said.
That's all you needed to say, is that it was weird.
All right. Well, I'll paste it here, and if you want to listen to it now, you can listen to it now, or save it for later.
Thank you. What about you, Karsten? Something I don't know. Is there anything
Well,
I
you
don't know?
know pretty much everything. Um, there's a band that I listen to occasionally. Well, I used to listen to it a lot more, but it's called Agalog. It's kind of a weird local band that's kind of a, I don't know how to describe it.
Are these the guys that I call the Pacific Northwest emo lumberjack Vikings or something to
Yeah,
that effect?
yes, emo lumberjack Vikings. That would describe it pretty well.
I'm just looking at this Jerry's Artorama tennis stopper thing. Let me see. Oh, I didn't know Lucy Liu was an artist. That's interesting. Wow. Tennis stopper. Wow.
Oh, pretty good.
That's really, the only one I knew about was Jim Carrey. These other people. Oh wow, Johnny Cash too. That's really interesting. Hmm.
So we had, besides that, we had a field trip. We were gonna take you to student and show where some of the hidden places were. And if people are interested in knowing how to break into Adam's office, I might just share that as well.
Can you describe how you got it?
So is anyone interested in a field trip, or should we hang out here? We've got some other icebreakers and stuff like that if we want to just chill and chat.
What? I wouldn't mind having a field trip. Another thing that might work out too is like having another event. It's like a touring maybe three regions. Because I was just looking at the Explore tab, and there's a lot of stuff in here with hidden stuff actually. Um, oh, thanks, sorry. In Cloud City, there's the one jumping game that we kind of, I don't know if it's intended as a jumping game, but there is a jumping game. Um, Delphi Talks has a quest. Um, wait, that Nature Quest is a quest, but let's see. I also think, what is this, the fourth time we've met now? This is the fourth time we've met, right? Isn't it?
So
So I suggest we change the format a little bit. Instead of a 2-hour event, do 1-hour event with optional extensions on the end of it. Because a lot of people tend to like have the time for 1 hour, but not really have the time for two.
well, that's what's intended today was the 1 hour and then taking the field trip. So well, anything that's all. Just throw out some more stuff here. So what fictional world or place would you like to visit?
Mhm.
Yeah, any genre.
I would have to say just a time period of medieval times around the world. Just curious where everyone was, where it was like maybe the Dark Ages in Europe versus at that point in time, Middle East.
That's not fictional.
No, I know. But there is a fictional world that has to do with all of like alternate universes. I can't think of the book. Um, yeah, it's just my way of getting a real life place in there. Okay, so fictional. Hmm, fictional. Well, I am curious about Lord of the Rings and all the different ages, second age, that kind of thing. Or even earlier, like the beginning of the elves and the Shire.
Is anyone else here? Artemis's voice breaking up?
Yes, both of your voices have been breaking.
It sounds like it's too.
I hear you breaking up too. So it must be your connection.
Their connection, or is this just the voice servers crapping out? Did like to Siri hear sidearm breaking up too? That would rule us out. It's just Beefy Vox. Thanks, Beefy Vox. Appreciate it.
Is there a link to the stream from your website, Carson? Because maybe we could listen to the stream and see if it was buffering there and figure out where the buffering is occurring.
Now there's. Whoops.
Got it. Let me pop over there.
That'll just let you hear what it sounds like to us. If Sidearm, if you and Curry or Busana are having trouble hearing each other, that would rule us out. Busana and Suri, do you hear Sidearm okay, or is he cutting out a little bit too?
Yeah, okay, this is a voice check. Can you hear Prasanna okay when I'm talking? Is it okay? So maybe it's the West Coast, East Coast. A tree fell on the internet, and that's my favorite explanation.
A little bit.
So Artemis, you're mentioning how about going to 1 hour format, and I was thinking that because I guess Carson was saying he was thinking about having something in the evening that would cover Australian or what do you call it, Oceanian hours. It'd be awfully hard to have two 2 hour events, but if you had two 1 hour events and use your current format, because you guys are pretty organized, you've got icebreakers and trivia and news, and that fills up an hour pretty well, like today it did. And then you could use the same agenda for the evening meeting and get two for the price of one, so to speak. So that was what I was thinking about the idea of going to 1 hour format, maybe twice a week, covering Oceania as well as US, Europe. It might double Karsten's work if he's going to keep writing long summaries of each meeting, but you'll figure that out as you go along. This is our fifth meeting, isn't it?
Something like that. It'd probably be easier for you too, right, Carson? Because your phone rang during the course of this, and maybe next time it's work calling.
Yep. Work is banging at my door. Yeah, we could Probably wrap it up a little early today if nobody wants to go on a field trip and whatnot. Yeah, it's a possibility. It sounds like interesting. The voice sounds so seems to have stabilized here, at least on my end. Australia was there's Holland's 3,000, there's 3,000, and I think there was a couple of others floating around on Discord that like to.
Oh, that was Hans 3000 was one of them.
Yeah.
But he's been busy with his render pipeline too, so it's some kind of a Blender HD render pipeline. I think he normally teaches Blender tutorials, classes in general.
Yep, I wanted to work on some stuff here last week, but never got a chance to. So hopefully this week I'll get a chance to work on some things. Between work and taking care of the house and stuff like that, it's hard to find a spare moment.
Another good question is, are you guys getting what you need from the meetings? Are you getting your talk? Your eyes are coming out, so to speak. Your introvert's eyes are getting to talk. Are you getting what you need?
I think so. Like I like efficiency, and so for me, the 1 hour format seems to work the best because it gives me my time to be social and really enjoying the trivia and the discussions, and then it leaves a large part of the day still for me to get other work done. So it really works for me. And I've met people that I otherwise wouldn't have met. People have come out of, like Chevron and Futurist and Widget, and every now and then staff pops in and we could talk about stuff. So yeah, I really like this that we're gonna be going to. It sounds cool.
Cool. So that's a plus. And then second question, are you guys getting pop-ins during the week? Remember, part of your original design was people would pop in here to localhost while you guys are working, not during an event. Is that happening each week, intermittently,
Not
periodically?
with yes, but not from within the population that's here currently. A lot of it is people coming from outside that we've never seen before. Um, like and they're playing the video game too because you can see the high scores. There's someone that I don't recognize. So that's
But that works, doesn't it?
There are a couple people in here, but it's very low right now because it's such a low population and there's not a lot of marketing being done about this. But yeah, I am noticing people come in. Yeah, it's been raining all day. I might actually start that book today. Charge up my Kindle. I think I have the entire series. What is it, 3 books right now?
I so
Yeah. Hi, Jamie.
hello, Jamie.
So you could go ahead and talk to Dixie, I suppose, and get this book club on the calendar. Maybe people would see it and want to pick it up. But I think when it starts off, it's not going to be very large because people feel a lot of times if they haven't read the book that it's not appropriate to drop into a book club if they're not ready to discuss it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, to start off, I would just yeah, I'm not really sure how to start that. Just have a book club meeting first to discuss what we're gonna read. I mean, that could be a 5 minute conversation.
Yeah, because I remember in my first book club meeting on meetup.com, the book club that I ended up leaving, which ended up being like the start of all my social life. My entire social life came out of this one book club, and it always was run very democratically, where we would get together and we'd all vote on the books to be read for the next. Um, maybe we could have something where we talk about the next books for the next 3 months and have a bunch of suggestions out there. Everyone reads what all these books are about, and then we just all vote on the next 3 months.
My feedback on the idea of the book club, I went to 2 book club meetings in the last month and a half, and one of them I went to, the story was actually summarized on Google somewhere, and I skip read the story so I could actually participate. And it was one of those stories that had a gee whiz gimmick in it, so that was okay. And then the second one I went to, there was no summary. You would have had to read it, and I felt totally unable to participate in the conversation, even though they said it was okay. You didn't have to have read the book. I mean, they were going into each character and what had happened and what excited them about it, and I just kind of stayed there to show willing. So I kind of have a 50-50 thing with the book clubs. Um, Now, I have been to book club meetings where they said it's okay not to have read the book, and then you just make stuff up and you talk about anything and everything, and then periodically you say something about the book, and then the people that haven't read the book say, well, that reminds me of X, Y, and Z. So it kind of depends on what you want to do with it. Um, if you want an open-ish meeting where people feel okay to come in, whether they did their homework or not, then I would lean toward option 3 or option 1. But the book you've selected does not look like option 1 is a good option. So that's my 2 cents, and it's worth every penny.
I just reset my headset. Didn't- Am I sounding a little clearer now? Okay, so not the headset then. And not the voice settings. Because the voice is all totally maxed out now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just Vivox. Vivox has never been known for its stability.
You know, it is occurring to me, Artemis and Carson, that you have created a unique challenge. You're created a meeting for introverts, and and, and the defining characteristic of an introvert is they sit around listening rather than speaking up. So how do we deal with that challenge is cool.
Well, I know if you can get me on subjects, certain subjects, I never shut up. So for me, I'm really tired right now. I'm still waking up, so I tend to fall back into listening.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
So I did that. I did a demo of several years ago, a demonstration of Dublin in Second Life. I raised a big, huge flat prim and put cube seats on it where you just clicked the seat and sat. And I had about 20 people come. And I had taken that and I had pre-registered, I wrote down teleport coordinates over each of the major sightseeing points in Dublin. And then I had them all gather at the meeting place, sit down on this big prim with seats. And then I sat down and I just edited the prim and changed its coordinates to each of the, sets. And we went bam, and we were like over the River Liffey, and then bam, we were over the Blarney Stone, and then bam, we were over the park in the corner, and bam, we were over Dublin Institute of Technology. And each stop there was a little thing I said. It's really kind of cool to do that. Um, I don't know if there's an equivalent here, but that would be a neat idea. Take this whole Tron room and we're all sitting, we're ready to go. Pick us up. Pick us up, Karsten. Take us away.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I didn't think anything like that would be possible.
Could we could the chopper carry us and fly around before teleporting?
Yeah, I mean, if everybody could sit in it, yeah, we could fly around before teleporting, yeah, for sure. And actually, once everybody's teleported to the new place, or has, if the new place has res open spawning, I guess what it called. So spawning is open to everyone, then we could spawn a helicopter there and then fly around as well if we wanted.
That would be cool. I'm really liking this idea though of being able to gather together and travel together.
Mhm.
But I think this group, we're all travelers. We all seem like we're all pretty adventurous and wanting to see more and more science-based. Everyone loves the idea of field trips, but it's kind of hard to organize. This would be a great way to do that. You think it's really possible then?
Yeah, I mean, even not necessarily a helicopter, but even if it was just a cube with seats on it, anybody sitting on that cube, then I push a button and it sends everybody a teleport that's seated, that's seating. I'm still waking up. Everybody that's sitting on a cube would get a teleport to the new region, and then once there, then we could spawn out whatever we need. It is kind of a bummer that what you have spawned won't teleport with you, but I can't think of any way off the top of my head to do that.
But if it was something you were wearing,
Yeah, we would arrive individually, but you know, you could have the
So,
helicopter waiting there again if they want
so
to spawn in there.
this is a cool idea. So Snow Tracks had his hoedown this last time at the top of Mount McKinley in his region, and you had to take a teleport to get there. Although I think somebody flew. It might have been Persona. I forget who. And so, when you're up there, he just had a flat little square, literally stabbed on top of the peak, kind of like you'd put a piece of paper in the old-time spike on old-time desks. And I was trying to walk around, and I kept walking up on thin air. And I said, what is this thing I'm walking on? Well, it turned out, he said, well, that's the mountain peak. I can't see it. And then he said, go to the edge and look down. It's really cool to see how far away we are from the main area. And I walked over, and all I could see was empty clouds. So I finally figured out what to do. I jacked up my graphics all the way, and he was right. You could literally, at the edge, look back way down and see, the little landing strip and the little airplane he's got. And of course, he had a copy of the airplane flying around the peak, because theoretically, that's how we got up there. And then I turned around, and boom, the mountain peak was right in my face. For some reason, it wouldn't res until I, pulled my graphics up to the highest. Now, naturally, I've resed the Bandit 4x4 and started to drive around. And unfortunately, I backed off the edge and started falling through the sky. And I didn't know what to do. I don't think you can delete it while you're in it, or I don't remember what I did. I think I got out, and then I didn't want to do that because I'd leave the Jeep, and then I was like falling and falling. And then I said, wait a minute, I can fly. So I started flying, and I flapped my wings and flew way up and looked around and around. I finally found, for some reason, I had fallen up instead of down. I finally landed, and thank God I was able to res the Jeep again, and this time very carefully drive around. But the point is, Snow Tracks is infamous for huge regions, and I don't know how the chopper. I know that you and Suri keep talking about this chopper. I don't know if you have one that's actually working or not. But Snow Tracks plane it might as well be a chopper. It just kind of floats at a very slow rate. You can ride it. It floats like a hot air balloon. I swear he's got the same script in it as a hot air balloon. But and I've ridden the hot air balloon, it works great. And I've ridden his canoe, it works great. But it would be really neat if we were all riding the same thing at once, whether it was a boat or a big flying plate or something. I don't know. That would be a neat idea to work on. And then just slap, Stark Tech all over it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun actually in Second Life. The group that I hung out with in there, we used to go out on aircraft. So one guy would buy airliners, and we'd all hop in, and we'd fly from one airport on one end of the Blake Sea, like way far away, to some other airport, and it was always really cool. The only thing was in Second Life was the sim crossings, which they, there's always that running joke of I can't remember it, but it was something like you still got your shoes, or they shoved up your butt, or something like that. It's the sim crossings will always mess up your outfits, or you'd get kicked out of the plane, or all sorts of weird, crazy stuff would happen. But yeah, that was really fun. And being able to do that here would be really cool because we don't have sim crossings. Oh yeah, the band lines, that was always fun. You run into something in a plane and everybody gets ejected. then you're playing stuff there. And, yeah.
A random observation. I'm noticing you have like a mountain outline and a sun over behind LT Drake. Was that there before as part of the room decor? I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, that's been there.
I just noticed it. Cool.
It's inspired by a lot of the that retro 80-ish 80s kind of sounding music. There's a
Synthwave.
yeah, the synthwave movement where you've got all this 80s stuff coming back now, and so you see a lot of this kind of stuff on the album covers.
It reminds me of the original Battle Zone. Oops, is my voice working? There it goes. Okay.
So since a lot of us are J, INTJ, ISFJ, INFJ, ENTJ, can't we decide something and make it happen before next week? Let's decide something. Oh, it's so much fun to decide things. Come on.
Wait, on which topic?
Well, based on if we're deciding on the book club, I think you and I at least are going to. It's a personal mission to read more this year, so we're definitely going to be reading this book. Um, the field trips with the vehicle, you're probably going to fiddle with something. That's the thing with Carson is if you drop an idea, he's going to go off and play with it. So even behind the scenes, if you don't see anything, there's probably already something going on.
Yeah, well, my main problem, I want to get the Bandit finished. Last week at the office, the tech hours, or whatever they call it, they announced that they were hoping this week they're going to have the 2B viewer finally pushed out to live, which is going to solve so many problems with networking. Um, uh, so that was the original goal, was that the Bandit Jeep was going to be pushed, was going to be finished and ready when 2B went to live. Because before then I didn't want people having issues because of a 1B viewer. So that's been my goal, is to work on that and get it finished up. Unfortunately, my work's been pretty busy this last week, not so I haven't got really much time to work on it. I did a few minutes here and there, but nothing substantial. And then I also want to do some updates to localhost here. So it's basically just a time situation at the moment. Is clients with real life business that I have to take care of.
Yeah, he's been pretty busy lately, and my focus is still on my career change. And so lately my career change is I've been wanting all my life to be a massage therapist. And so all of these other things have always kind of gotten in the way. And I've almost got my entire tuition so that when the semester starts next spring, I can start my classes for massage therapy certification. So for me, a large part of that is physically being in the gym. So I try to be in the gym 2 hours a day, and then I'm trying to get into networking with other people in the field, and just all sorts of things having to do with my new career. So for the both of us, it's been a really busy week. So like, I know that we could just put more time into the marketing for localhost, but right now I'm marketing for my career, and it's like there's no more. I wish there was more time and more energy to do this kind of. I know what we need to do. Yeah, so we just keep keep going on. Keep it going.
What I'm gonna do is what I'd like to do, Carson and Artemis, is chat with you before next week um, about some ideas for this event, if that's okay with you. And I'll tell you what they are. The idea is to have kind of a standard agenda template, and you kind of do, but you kind of brought up some new things. So I'd like to just go over that with you at your convenience, and then if you like it, we could try that again for next week. But I think it would help to, ahead of each meeting, I like Surrey's idea. This week I kind of deliberately didn't advertise the meeting. I kind of waited to see who would show up from the people I usually ping, which are Futurist, Widget, and Inquisitive, and Synapse. And out of those four that I did not remind, three of them actually showed up, which I thought was cool. However, I'm not stupid. If I stop reminding them, it'll drift. But it would help me remind them if I could say, oh, by the way, at Monday's meeting, here's kind of what it looks like they're going to talk about. So that's my agenda to kind of talk to you guys. And also my agenda, the template I have in mind is based on what you just talked about today that you guys wanted to do. So I'm thinking it might be win-win. For example, viewer update, and then project updates from us. What are we working on? Like, what's Prasanna working on? Trivia time, favorite, clearly. A book club minute, and then last week we had Jay and Les, and Sri's a good regular attendee. Maybe something about an SWE minute, Wave Entertainment minute, if somebody's there, they want to tell us something or give us some updates. Dixie comes to mind as well. So that's kind of the idea. And then, some of those things will have content and some won't have content. But between kind of a list, I'm sure it'll fill out the time. And Americans like to be right. Okay, they're still having that conversation. There you go. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys about that separately. That's kind of how I'm seeing things after 5 meetings. I think it's a workable format, and you're clearly getting interested people coming back, and some unpredicted opportunities have popped up. So here you go.
Yeah,
Another 2 cents.
I'm definitely interested in trying to tighten up this format. I don't know how to expand on the things that we would be offering because there's already so little time to take the time to do minutes, to take the time to do, I mean, Preston, you do okay doing your minutes and stuff. We find time to do this, but then to add more and more things to the region, just us hosting and doing everything, that's not feasible. We're both so busy.
Yeah, well, thankfully I've got LT Drake over there recording it. So I don't feel like I need to type up minutes this time. I just will take my outline that I did for the meeting, basically post that. And then for details, check out the video here, so that'll save me some time going over that. I know last week, preparing for today, I was intending to get to it earlier in the week, but said with work being so busy and everything else, I actually didn't get to it until last night. So we were up pretty late because we had guests, and then finally got to it. So we were think we were up till well after midnight. Yeah, have the format and just kind of that's basically what I do. But when I prepare for the meeting, is I take the outline the week, so just fill it out again with new stuff. Yeah, I'm fine doing this. You know, every week. It works for me. Some weeks will be a little easier than others getting prepared for it, though. I'm pretty sure.
Well, this is a crazy question, but I'll ask it. Do you guys really want to have an event? You've got 5 weeks under your belt. You know what it's like now.
That's
And
what I
we've
was
kind of,
saying. Yeah, that's what I was saying is that you know, I'm fine doing this event and gonna put stuff together. Sure, that'll be good. Uh, and as far as the additional events, like artists was saying, we were hoping that we could build a community here and other people would start filling in some events, but that was kind of based on us bringing in outside people, people from our real life groups that we're part of. Um, but that's been a little difficult with the viewer issues that we've been facing. Uh, so we'll, you know, as they bug fix the viewer and get the installation process a little more streamlined, that again, see how it goes. But for now, just doing our regular weekly meeting is kind of what we're going with.
I kind of agree with Suri there, guys. It's it's kind of predictable what will happen if there isn't one of you hosting. It doesn't have to be both of you. If you don't host the event, it'll just fall apart. Nobody will come. Kind of like, and showing off the region, you know, people will come and discover it and play the games, and that's fine. It's more to the point. Is it worth it to you to put the investment in to say, hey, on X day at Y time, we're going to meet for an hour or two and talk about this stuff? Are you getting anything from that? And and you were hoping for outside folks to come in, and at the moment that's on hold. It might get better with the viewer stabilizing. So maybe you want to keep the event in place for now and see how that wraps out. But if it's not worth it to you, if you're losing energy, net energy doing this, stop it. And as you were saying, put your energy elsewhere. You've got plenty of projects on your plate. It's really what is uniquely available from doing this that you're not going to get anywhere else. I would suggest, that's just me. I have my own ideas. Um, but I do suggest that, kind of looking at it between now and whenever, are you getting net positive energy from this? Are you learning something that you can apply that will help you everywhere else or other places in your life? Is this future oriented? Is this going to help your future? That's what I'm looking at. Is it future oriented? Everything I look at, whether to try or not, I'm trying to decide, am I going to buy and learn this new magic music visualizer? It's kind of complicated, but it's kind of intriguing. Is it for me? Is it future oriented? And is it knowledge and applying the knowledge related? Can I make something with it? Can I make a cool music video with it or whatever? And whatever the equivalent of that is for you, that's kind of what I'm suggesting as a fellow introvert.
Yeah, well, the goal wasn't to for myself to get anything out of this, personally, to like improve myself or anything like that. It was mostly just to create a place to interact with other people. I guess I do get something out with the bouncing off ideas, with the geek tech news and all that. That's fun for me. But yeah, it's sustainable for me. I'm not going to be able to host a bunch of other events, like we were saying, but doing this one event a week is sustainable for me. But yeah, mostly it was just doing it to provide something for other people and to bring people together. Uh, yeah.
So it sounds like we're coming to a violent agreement, so to speak. That wasn't Betty Tiago. That was another person who taught me that one. Is one event a week, not two. So that sounds clear. So then the other question is, do you want it to be a 2-hour event or a 1-hour event?
Well, if we're, we were talking about doing an evening event, 1 week morning event, the other, so that we could alternate the audience. We could pick up the people in East Asia and Australia on the and the evening time states here, and then the other event, which would be like the time slot we're in now, would pick up the people that can attend during the day in the States, and then pick up the people in the UK, Europe. So we were talking about doing that, alternating 1 week this, 1 week that. But you were talking about if we go to 1 hour, if we go to, is my voice working? Okay. If we were talking about going to 1 hour time slots, uh, perhaps we could do both. I don't know. I have to think on it a little bit. Hadn't really considered that yet. And just kind of plan for Mondays to do something in the morning and something in the evening. It's possible.
Then the other thought is, who do you want to attract to your meetings? Or said another way, who else would you like to come? I'll throw one on the table. Would you like Adam to show up periodically? And that would give you a reason to do the Australian. And thank you, Suri, so much. Who are other people you guys already know that you would like to have show up here? And who knows, maybe your outside folks can start coming once things stabilize this by the end of the month. But anyway, I'm not asking you to answer that. but it's a little easier to plan, I think, if you have in mind and to be energized. Like Artemis, you said you can talk a mile a minute with your friends. That's not a problem. So who else like that would you like to come that you would feel at ease talking with?
Well, not any one individual person. It was just kind of a catch-all for geeks to come hang. If you're into sci-fi, fantasy, computers, science, literature, I don't know, just any kind of thing that you have a passion about, come here and talk about it.
And that could give you an automatic time slot, like what I call, resident project updates. That could just be, hey, I'd like 2 minutes to talk about what I'm working on, or I'd like 3 minutes to talk about something cool I just read, or listen to this thingy I just did.
Of course, with so many of us being introverts, I'll throw it out there. Hey, what is everybody working on? Any cool places and you've discovered and blah blah blah. And then it's crickets. I need to get the. I was thinking about that this morning. I need to get a soundboard so I can play little sound effects for you guys. So when nobody say anything, I can play crickets.
See, the thing about an introvert, it isn't that they never speak up. They will speak up when it's something they care about that matters to them. Um, so that's I don't think that's going to shut things down.
No,
If
I'm
it's
just
something
trying to
they're
figure
not,
out the. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to get people energized to actually talk about things that they're interested in. I don't know if it's just nobody's working on anything. They haven't actually discovered anything here that's interesting. But how to get them jazzed up about it enough that they're actually gonna want to talk about it. You know.
okay. So for now, we're meeting again next week, right? That's still on.
Yeah.
Cool. And I'd still like to chat with you offline with my little ideas.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, it's Geek Weekly. We're here every week. Whether we do 1 hour or 2 hours, I guess that's up for consideration. And if we split it into two time slots on Mondays, that might be something to think about. But otherwise, yeah, we're here every week. Well, that's what's interesting with the whole geek thing is that's in traditional traditional past senses, I guess people would consider it of a negative connotation, but for me, geek is yeah. So it's kind of was like growing up, it was like, oh, he's a geek, you don't want to hang around that guy, but uh, I don't know, things seem to be changing where it's like more generally accepted. Maybe not in the older generations, but in the younger generations, it seems to be more accepted now. Uh, and that was kind of the whole intention was like, yeah, let's make it really cool to be a geek. We got this cool hangout where you shouldn't be afraid to be a geek. It just to me a geek just means that you've got a passion for something that
I've really enjoyed meeting all the people that have come out here so far. And that for me, that's what I had wanted, because people were not talking in world other than to complain about science space. And and there's enough places to do that kind of stuff and talk about the future science space, but just to get to know people, this has accomplished that for me. And I don't have a very high need for interactivity with people. So for me, uh, this does it. You know, one time a week and I'm good for the week.
I think Jamie's just raised a good point. I mean, geek works for you, so stick with it. Um, in another generation, a word that now has negative connotation is hipster, um, which I think that's so old you guys probably haven't heard of it, but I never used it myself, but I keep hearing it all over the place. I'm pasting these definitions in here because words to me are fascinating and much more powerful than people give credit for. Um, that in every generation there is the equivalent of someone that is contemporary or ahead of the curve, ahead of the curvers. I don't know. I have not, Karsten. So if there were a short word for ahead of the curvers, I'd use that.
Yeah, so we'd probably reword some of the postings and advertisements, little blurbs for the Geek Weekly to try and make it seem more inclusive. I think on one of our boards, like it just lists like a whole bunch of stuff, but um, I do feel like that if someone was just like average Joe that didn't really have any kind of interest in sci-fi or games or any of these topics that we discussed, they'd probably be bored out of their mind if they can. Okay, well, that's definitely some stuff to think about, and we'll take a look at that for next week.
So, likes and wishes. One like I have is how the news, the news you post triggers ideas and add-ons. So like you posted the news about last week about the invisibility cell, and that triggered a whole discussion and ideas and then some other links about other tech. So to me, that is having an intelligent conversation, which is techie / girdy / needy, nerdy / future oriented. A wish I would have is when we talk sci-fi, I'm more interested in the ideas and how they might apply right now, So one of your topics last week was about uploading our personalities or something, and then some of the ideas that come out of that are maybe if we are stored holographically, we don't have to die. Whereas in the real world, we have to die because there's no room for other people. It's not just an issue of food, it's an issue of who's in charge and gets to run things. And, the older generation needs to die and make room for the newer generation. Terrible thought, but it's how it works. But if you can upload your bodies, oh my God, how would that work? Would there be separate server farms for different generations? I mean, you could just have a fascinating conversation on that. So use the sci-fi to trigger ideas and then, run with those. So that was a wish. Oop, there we go. Diversifying events without doing the hosting. Curious to find out what other people find passionate. Jamie dittos Artemis's comment on ideas. Whoa. So Karsten has a wish to know what kind of art that Jamie does. We're kind of wrapping it up here, guys. Likes and wishes is a wrap-up exercise, and the wishes help figure out what to talk about next time, or maybe Jamie will stay and tell you what kind of art. So I wish you had listened to my music. So there. So anyway, since we're going to talk art, I'm a musician, so that's kind of what I'm spending a lot of time on.
No, we're still here. I think everybody's just typing right now. Yeah, so I think we're just kind of wrapping things up. Yeah, glad you all could come, and hope to see you all again next week.
Alrighty. See you soon. I'm just going to sit here and type for a while.